Hi, this is David McCann for Elementor 360. Welcome to another 360 review. In this video, I want to take a look at the Piotnet Addons for Elementor, or PAFE. I'm going to do a general overview of PAFE, and then look at using the form builder features with a toolset custom post type. We're here at the PAFE website, and this is a list of the features. About a third of the features relate to form building. There's a form builder. You can use the forms with WooCommerce. You can submit the form as a front-end form for a post or for a custom post type. You can add a Stripe payment to the form. You can have multi-step forms, conditional logic, and calculated fields. You can save the form submissions to Google Sheets, and you can save them to the database. There's a range slider field that you can use with the forms, an image select field that you can use with the forms, form styling, and conditional visibility. Then there are a number of features that relate to images. There's a slider, there's a lightbox image, a lightbox gallery, a lightbox thumbnail gallery. You can add multiple background images to an element. You can have a before and after image comparison slider. You can have responsive gallery column width, responsive gallery images spacing, have a media carousel ratio, and image carousel multiple custom URLs. Then there are features that relate to columns and rows and sections and positioning. For example, equal height for any widget and CTA, equal height for WooCommerce products, responsive custom positioning, set the column width by pixel percent or calculation, custom aspect ratio, responsive column order, responsive hide column, display inline block, section link, column link, max width, and absolute positioning. And finally, there are some other features that enhance features in Elementor or Elementor Pro. For example, Ajax Live Search, Advanced Tab Styling, Nav Menu Styling, Gradient Text and Gradient Button, Convert Image to Black and White. And I don't think this is even a complete list. When I read over this list, some of the items I had a pretty good idea of what they did, and other ones I had no clue. And I think that reflects a little bit of the nature of the PAFE add-on. Some of it's pretty straightforward, and some of it is a bit arcane. So because I wasn't sure what everything was, I went looking for documentation. There are some tutorials, which are video tutorials, and they're anywhere from a minute to 7 or 8 minutes long. Some of them have no voiceover, and some of them do have a voice accompaniment. One of the problems with only having videos is sometimes you're not sure exactly where they're starting and what the goal is. So while the video is good for seeing the steps, sometimes it doesn't provide enough context, at least for me. And I didn't find any written documentation. So while I think there's a good number of tutorials here, you're going to have a little bit of trial and error. Before I leave the website and start doing the demo and walkthrough, let's take a look at the pricing. This is one of the nice things about PAFE is the pricing is very reasonable. It's $35 for one site for a year of updates and support, and $70 for unlimited sites, lifetime updates and support, which is a really good value. I have here a demo site using the Page Builder Framework theme. Let's look at the plugins I have installed here. There's Elementor, Elementor Pro, the Piotnet Addons, the Piotnet Addons Pro Edition, Toolset Types, and Toolset Views. I'm going to look at Toolset and the custom post type I created in a minute, but first let's look at these settings. Here's a place where you activate your license using your username and password that you used to register on the site when you made your purchase. And then these are all of the features. And I really like that they've added these settings that you can turn on or off the features that you want so that your builder UI is not overloaded and chaotic. Everything's turned on, so let's take a look at the widgets and options in the Elementor editor. Here's a blank page, and let's take a look at the widgets. You can see here there are only 7 widgets out of all of those features. There's a Lightbox image widget, a Lightbox gallery, a slider builder, then there is a field for a form, a submit button for the form, an option for a multi-step form, and there's a before and after image comparison slider widget. So you might be asking yourself, well then, where are all of the features? So to show you that, I'm going to look at a page I've prepared. This is one of the features of PAFE. You have 2 images that you can fade in and out between them as a background option, so that's kind of cool. And here it is in the editor. In order to access this, I gave this a background color here, because without the background color, you just see a big blank white spot and it's really difficult to find your settings. What I've got here, if we look at the structure, what I've got here is, this is the section, the column, the intersection, a column inside that, and a heading. On the section level, when we look at that, we see here is one PAFE feature, a section link. You can add a link to the section as a whole. But one thing that is missing is there's no indication here that a setting has been entered, and that would be really helpful, as you'll see in a minute as we start going through these different sections. There are a lot of PAFE options. Here's a responsive background option, multiple background images, which is not what we're using. These multiple background images, you can add images and you can set, let's just add one here for a second, and you can set its position. And what this is, you can add a multiple one, so you can set one for top center and one for bottom center and create kind of a frame effect. Okay, but I want to remove that and keep going. Here's responsive section column text align and text color change on column hover. Alright, then you go to the Advanced tab, and here's some more PAFE options. There's absolute positioning, responsive custom positioning, equal height, slider builder animation, toggle content, form builder conditional logic, conditional visibility, CSS filters, sticky header visibility, and crossfade multiple background images. This is the one I'm actually using there, and as you can see there's no indication, but I've got it turned on and I've got 2 images there, and that's what we see on the front end. Now there is this note that this feature only works on the front end, but I'll tell you that a lot of these are like that, and as a result it makes it a little bit difficult to work with when you don't have any preview in the editor. So you have to make your changes and then go take a look at them. Another thing I want to mention here is, for example, these sticky header options. These extend the Elementor Pro sticky header by adding a few more features and would require Elementor Pro, while some of these other items would not require Elementor Pro. Another thing to mention here is you see these PAFE features here. Well, if you click on a different element, you see different features. So some of these features that exist are context specific, depending on if you're on a section, on a column, on an image, and so on. Another thing I'll mention as I was working with these is that they are not in alphabetical order, or in any order as far as I can find. and they're interspersed with some of the regular Elementor and Elementor Pro features, and it would be helpful, I think, if they were organized a little better. These PAFE features could be useful in some situations, but personally I probably wouldn't purchase the add-on pack just for these. The central feature of the PAFE add-on pack is the front-end form builder, and so let's take a look at that next. I've got toolset types and views installed, and I've created a custom post type called books. Let's look at the custom fields for books. You can see there's an Amazon link, which is a URL type field. There's a publication date for the books, which is a date field. There's a select box where you can choose if the book being reviewed was a print or an audio format. If it's print, then there's a field for number of pages, and if it's an audio book, then a field for recording length. And we're going to use the conditional logic of PAFE to get the input for number of pages when it's print or recording length when it's audio. So we'll see how the conditional input works. If we take a quick look at the books, I've entered 2. Let's look in the editors. Here's one, The Fell Sword, which is print and has a number of pages. And here's one, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, which is audio and has the length. If we take a look at the books on the front end, here it is. We can see it has the published date, it has the format reviewed, so that's another field, and then it has the number of pages, and it has the Amazon link. Same thing here, but the format reviewed is audio, and it has the audiobook length. This is a single book template created with Elementor Pro. So I entered 2 books, and then I created a front-end form using PAFE where people could enter their own book reviews. And you see here it has the post title, the publication date, the format reviewed, and if you click print, it shows number of pages. If you click audio, it shows recording length, the place for the Amazon link, place to upload a file for the book cover, and then editor area to enter your review, and a button to save it. So let's look how that's put together. So here's that same page back end using the Elementor editor. If we focus in on the PFAE widgets, this whole form together with a submit button were just these 2 widgets. And what you do is for every field, including the image field, you drag one of these over, and that gives you an input area. And then on the submit, you link them all together. And it's unfortunately a little bit tedious and a manual process, but let me show you what I mean. It's crucial that you remember what you named your field. So this is Amazon-link, publication-date, format, pages, recording-length, and you also need to remember what type of field data you've set up. Here's URL, date, a select, number, and single line text. So in the Elementor editor, when you look at these fields, you notice there's an option here for form ID, and I put in book form. Every single one of these fields has to have the same value here to show that it all gets submitted together, and you can see that they all do. Going back to the title, you have to give it an ID. In this case, you can give it whatever you want. Then in publication date, though, I give the name of the slug and tool set for that custom field. And you see when you enter a value here, it creates a short code here with a field ID. Okay, then you give it a date, you give it a label, which can be whatever you want. Okay, so you do this for each of these. This one's a number, it has a short code created. This one, the Amazon link, for instance, is a URL type. When we look at the book cover, we see its image upload. And then when we look at review, this is a tiny MCE, which is going to be a multi-line text field. So remember the way the form works. When you select print, Then on the front end, the number of pages show. And when you select audio, the recording length field shows. So on number of pages here, go to conditional logic, and you say the action is to show the field or set a value. So it's show the field if the field ID format, that is the short code from this field, equals print. And on this one, we have something similar, which is show the field if format equals audio. That's how we had the toggle in showing the appropriate field depending on the format reviewed. Finally, it's all tied together in kind of a monster here, which is the submit button. And the action that we've added is to submit the post. Okay, but you have other options here also, to email, to redirect, to add a webhook. This is new. Remote request, to open a pop-up or close a pop-up. Then when we submit the post, we're telling it which post type to add the fields for, and it's books. We're going to set the status to pending so that front-end reviews that get submitted are looked at before they're published. And then we start entering in the values from these different fields. So several of them are core WordPress fields. This is the title, which I gave it the ID of review title. This is the content, which I gave it the ID of review. This is the featured image, which I gave it the ID of book cover. But the rest of these fields are tool set fields. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. But notice that PAFE also supports post custom fields, that is the built-in WordPress ones, advanced custom fields, and jet engine fields. So on each of these, you fill out this little form. That's a select from toolset. This is the field short code. Remember when we looked here, this is that field short code there. And then this is where we select the data type. If it's one of these, text, text area, number, email, URL, or password. Or also supported are image, gallery, select, radio, checkbox, date, and time. So that's pretty wide range of support for data types. Here's the Amazon link one, for instance. Amazon-link, there's the short code, and here it's a URL. And if we look here, it's a publication date, and we give it the type of date. In the submit post action, you have to map all these fields in with their values and fill out this form, a little mini form for each field. This actually works pretty well. Let's save this, and then let's go take a look at it. And we're going to give this a title, Camino Island. We'll just make up a publication date for this, and we'll say it's July 3rd, and it was print, and it has 285 pages. Enter a link, URL, and then click and add the image. One thing here is that when you upload an image, it just shows the thumbnail. You don't see the full size here, but it does upload the full size. And then we enter our review. So I'm just gonna grab some dummy text there and hit save. And let's go see if that worked. Okay, here's our pending review. Here's the title, the body, the content, the link, the publication date, the format, and the number of pages. So we can see it did give us the ability to submit a custom post type from the front end, something that's not available with Elementor in any other add-on pack. And I think this is the kind of cream of the PAFE add-in. Going back here, there are some things that could be done to make this easier. For example, when you map fields in Elementor and you click the dynamic option, then it does a lookup for you. So here when we have the IDs and they need to be pulled from the database, that would be a help. And it would be especially helpful when we are filling out these little mini forms. Getting the slug is if we could, it knows it's a toolset field, so ideally it would be able to look it up just the way Elementor Pro does. Make it a little less tedious to enter the values. But what there is does work, and everything I've tried works well, so that's a big plus for PAFE. This is an archive for books created with Elementor Pro. But I've added one thing to it, which is this search box. And this is the Ajax search for the PFAE pack. And we'll look at the back end of this, but just for the front end, you can see that it does an Ajax search. You can choose from the results and go to the book here. So that's a nice addition to the search functionality. Here is that archive in the editor, and when I click on the search box, we've got the standard Elementor search form here, and then we enable the Ajax Live search. So it's not a replacement for the search form, but an enhancement of it. And when you enable this, then you set the post type that you want it to search in, and you can do styling. So this is kind of typical of the PAFE add-ons, is that they are enhancements to existing features. In conclusion, there are a ton of these PAFE options, but because they're contextual, because there is limited documentation, some of them are kind of harder to use. And I don't think that you would purchase PAFE just for these. The strength of the PFAE add-on pack is this front-end form submission feature. It is really very flexible, supports advanced custom fields, toolset, CrocoBlock, Jet Engine, and has a lot of options. It's a little bit cumbersome to set up, but it works well. I contacted support a couple of times, and by the next morning, a new feature had been added. This is how toolset was supported. And so there's a high degree of responsiveness from the PAFE developer, which also helps to recommend it. So that's my look at the Piotnet add-on for Elementor. I hope you found the walkthrough and review useful. Thank you for watching.